Hello everyone. Today I'm interviewing fiddler Dan Stacey. And how are you doing today, Dan?
I'm doing all right, thank you. And yourself?
I'm pretty good, honestly. I'm excited to talk about this. For those who don't know, Dan is a very, very talented musician and fiddler, mainly. That's like your main thing.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're just going to talk about some things because you've got a new album coming out and music video, and you've been doing this for a very long time. So do you remember how old you were when you first started?
Playing the fiddle?
Yes.
Yes, I was about 9 years old.
Oh, wow. And what got you into it?
Well, I started as a step dancer first.
Oh, really?
I did a form of dancing called Ottawa Valley Step Dancing, and we danced to fiddle music, so I thought it a natural transition just to learn the music that I was dancing to.
Yeah.
So I started after I'd done a few steps.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
And how difficult was that to learn? Since you knew the music as a dancer, was it difficult to then go and play it yourself?
Well, it's a pretty awkward instrument to learn, the fiddle or violin or whatever style of music that you're concentrating on. So I think through osmosis, just listening to it helped. But, when you're first starting out, it is quite complicated. So yes and no.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what drew you to the fiddle compared to other instruments? Because obviously you dance to it, but
Right.
Is there something about the instrument, I guess, when you kept playing it that made you go towards it?
Well, I think it was just because I was around it, and I always had this desire to try to learn how to play music in some capacity. So that just happened to be what was around. But I do remember when I heard Irish fiddle music for the first time, I was compelled to learn that because I don't know what happened. Something inside just said, that's it.
Yeah.
And I decided to dedicate my life to it after that.
Yeah, it just kind of clicked in your brain.
Absolutely.
And how did your friends as a teenager feel about that? Did they agree with you and kind of see that? Or were they just like, what is he doing?
Well, not too many knew about it. I kind of lived two different lives. I lived my school life and then I lived my after school life.
Yeah.
Things started to conflict a little more when I was on sports teams in high school, especially because I was off doing shows and sometimes I'd have to miss certain tournaments or games or whatever. And, I had some coaches that understood that, but my teammates might have known, but I didn't perform it in front of any of my schoolmates really. So they, out of sight, out of mind,
Yeah.
So they didn't really know how dedicated I was to it at the time.
Yeah.
Now they all do, As I get older, you kind of, I think I kept it from them in fear of what they might think of me, those type of things, but when you get to a certain age, that all just fades and disappears and you don't worry about things like that anymore.
Oh, yeah. I definitely understand that. And for post-secondary, did you go to school for this? Did you have something for that? Or did you just continue a career by yourself?
Well, in this day and age, there are programs that offer folk music. I think primarily out east. There's nothing in Ontario that would. Of course, in places like Ireland, there is. You can go and get your performance, masters in performance over there in Irish music. But no, I didn't go to school for it formerly just because there was no programs. It's folk. It's kind of off the beaten path type of music. So there wouldn't be the pool of people wanting such a program in a university. And of course, universities are businesses. So if there's no interest, they're not going to offer the program. So I learned informally, primarily from recordings, a lot of lonely nights and days inside my room, rewinding things. What did that player do there? And, try to mimic it. I did a lot of mimicking growing up just because that I think that's pretty much the way everybody does. They hear people that they admire and they want to sound like them, so they mimic them for a while, and then eventually you kind of let all that go and try to focus on developing your own sound.
Yeah, I think that's That definitely makes sense for any instrument, for guitar, for drums, for piano, or anything. I think that definitely works. And who were like the first inspirations for you? Like, who were the people that you listened to and kept rewinding your tapes?
Okay, well, my first inspiration probably would be my twin sister, because she was step dancing first. So the step dancing took me to the fiddling. So if I wouldn't have been inspired by her to start step dancing, I never would have picked up the fiddle in the first place. So I have to mention her, absolutely. Like, she started going to places like Mitchell.
Oh, really?
You know, so I wanted to go to Mitchell too, so I took up step dancing. And then from there, I heard a fiddle player named Pierre Schreier, who was originally from Sault Ste. Marie, play a lot of Irish music, and another fiddle player named Denis Langto, who is from Papineauville, Quebec, but he lives in Ottawa now. When I heard those two musicians play Irish music, they were a massive influence on me, and I was learning everything of what they were putting out, you know, everything I could get my hands on. And then when I was up in Ottawa, I took a job and was invited to teach at the Folklore Center, teach fiddling up there. And in those days it was on Bronson Avenue in a house, and it's now on Banks, I think. And it's a big, I'm not sure if it's even open actually still, but I came across a recording of a fellow fiddle player named Frankie Gavin. And in those days, there was no internet, so you couldn't get access to videos or anything of these people. You just had recordings, and there's this recording live in France of Frankie and a few other musicians, and it just blew my head off. So I immediately started learning that, you know, like putting it in the CD player and rewinding it. It took me forever, because Frankie Gavin is, you know, at the time of the recording and pretty much his whole life, he's been one of the greatest musicians on the planet. So it was quite challenging to try to learn what he was doing, because, well, it was impossible for me at that at the level I was at. But it gave me something to strive for, and his music still rings true to me to this day. So I still learn stuff from him. And in recent months, I've been concentrating on a lot of music from Newfoundland. I was just out there, and I was in 2016. I was in a show at the Stratford Festival called As You Like It, and it had a Newfoundland theme, and that kind of got me going on Newfoundland music, because it's quite similar to Irish music. Yeah. So what I was doing leading up to that production and the music from Newfoundland kind of, you know, they blend really well. So when I went out there recently, I was blown away by the musicianship out there. So I've been learning tunes out of a fellow named Kelly Russell, who's a legendary fiddle player out there. He put out a book of Newfoundland fiddle tunes that I have been diving into lately.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's really fun. And talking about like the past few months, well, actually a year and a half now, how did COVID really affect your whole career? Because I know it plays a big part in the music video for your single coming up, but how did it affect your whole music career?
Well, the record was ready to go at the beginning. Like in March 2020, I had some gigs booked to start getting the album's called Kid Who. I was looking to get that off the ground, so I had some musicians, and I was going through rehearsals, and we were all set to, start, breaking all this stuff into eventually, maybe take it to a big stage. And of course, that all disappeared. So I had to pull an audible, and I decided to start making my own copies of the record. I called them official bootleg copies that I was selling, making origami CD cases for them, and burning the actual music onto a CD from the masters. Yeah. And I was handwriting all the artwork and everything, and was making everything by hand, just to try to give some sort of value to the music over and above just the music. Yeah. And I've made about 250 of those, so that helped me weather the storm. Now I'm to the point where I just can't wait any longer. Yes. We recorded the music video last fall, and held on to it until this fall, because there's a lot of it was shot outside, and the autumn colors. So COVID has pretty much killed all my plans, so I've had to kind of figure out, and I really still don't know what I'm doing as far as trying to promote something where I really can't play it live.
Yeah.
You know, there's gigs out there, but a lot of the mainstream artists would be had first dibs.
Yeah.
You know, on a lot of these gigs. So trying to develop something in the climate that we're in right now is pretty tricky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll have to get lucky.
I agree. And talking about that album coming out, what's like the date and everything, just so everybody can know?
Okay. Well, the first single is coming out this Friday, September 10th, with music video. So the single is going to be on all the streaming platforms as well. The video is going to be on all the major social networking platforms, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, of course. So I decided to just put it everywhere instead of having it centrally located on YouTube and sharing it everything to Facebook, because I don't think Facebook and YouTube play well together.
Yeah.
You know, so Facebook kind of suppresses YouTube videos.
Oh,
so,
100%.
Yeah, so I'm trying to, play the game, so to speak, and learn how to do it. You know, I've been doing a lot of reading as far as marketing goes on music, and who knows if I'm on the right path, but we'll see.
I guess we'll see with this. And how much can you say about the album, since it obviously isn't out yet? How much can you talk about it?
I can talk in great length about it if you wish.
Okay. How many tracks are on this?
There's 15 tracks.
15 tracks, and we talked a little bit off camera here, but you said some of them are instrumental. So how many are instrumental compared to ones with vocals and other instruments?
Well, there's 4 instrumental tracks in between songs, like slated. So the album was developed in such a way that I really wanted to invite and try to invite the listener to listen to it from start to finish.
Yes.
You know, so everything is, there's continuity going, and there's a flow between tracks that like something on vinyl, for example, would be a little easier to translate it there, because vinyl, the format is you're almost forced to listen to it from at least one side from start to finish, and then the other side from start to finish. Listeners these days, it's kind of funny how things have gone back to the single, where it's just one track that artists are pushing, even the mainstream artists. A lot of them, of course, they're making albums that are 30 tracks long these days, but they used to do that in the old days, like before the full-length album really started taking hold. It's kind of funny how things have gone full circle, where the single seems to be something that is advantageous for an artist to push.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and what was the recording process of the album like? Like, was it recorded at like a studio? Was it at your house? All that?
Okay, it was pieced together. So I started, some of the stuff that is on the album I recorded on my 4-track cassette recorder, like way back in 1999 and 2000 and years like that. And then the single, I Want My Life Back, I started the first demo back in 2003. And I wrote that just basically because I woke up one day and I just had this revelation that I was living a life that I didn't intend to live, and I wasn't very happy, and I was just trying to figure out a way to get myself back on the right track. So, I wrote the words down on paper, and when I was reading them back, it was kind of like this wake-up call to me to start steering my life into a better direction. So I think the song has been kind of like therapy for me, and it was a slow, steady climb to get there. Over the years, I kept wanting to put the album out but my career was in the toilet, and I didn't have any money, and I didn't have much confidence to try to finish it. So I kind of hung on to it, knowing someday that I would probably snap out of it completely. And it wasn't until about 2016, 17, maybe, when I started really focusing on wanting to finish it. And of course, I've had a lot of the session files for some of these songs that I started recording in Philadelphia back in, I lived there for 5 years, so about 2008 I started on the road to finish to start Kid Who. I didn't even know what it was going to be at that point. And then I recorded a couple tracks up in Pembroke and back in 2009 as well. So it was always there. It was always something that I wanted to finish. And in 2017, I really started focusing on getting it going. And then it wasn't until 2019 where I really put the gas pedal down.
Yeah.
And it took me about a year and a half to complete the entire project. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it with all the different layers. Now, I've only heard the single here, and everybody make sure to go check it out. It's pretty cool. And the music video is quite fun. And how many of the instruments, especially on that track, did you play? Like, I know that there's in the song a little bit of like solos with the fiddle that sounds like something like an electric guitar, but there's also drums and all of these things. So how many of those did you play?
Okay, well, a lot of the demos I started with a drum machine. So I was actually getting quite complicated with writing the drum parts for certain sections of the music. So I didn't just put one drum beat and then wrote like a verse and then a chorus over the same drum beat. Like, I mean, I was getting quite complicated back in the day because I knew I was going to hand it over to a real drummer at some point, and I wanted to, with zero distortion, give him or her, I didn't know who I was going to hire at the time, the opportunity to hear what I had in mind on the demo. So there was 3 drummers on the record. One is named Chuck Treese, he's from Philadelphia. The other is named Angelo Christian Maselli, who's originally from the Orlando, Florida area, but now he lives over in San Francisco. And there was a local guy here named Stefan Sesniak that played on 4 tracks as well. So
nice.
3 drummers. I wrote all the bass parts myself on the demos, and then I had, there's 3 bass players. Tom Spiker in Philadelphia, so he played basically what I had written, but better, because he's a professional bass player. And I did something similar with a fella named Rob Becker out in Vancouver. I flew out there to get him to record the bass on it. So he just followed my bass parts that I wrote, and a fella named Ian Tanner. I finished the last track over in New Hamburg with a fella named John Beetle Bailey at his recording studio called Dry Shed. So that was on Hollow Smile that he played on that, Ian. So, and then the 90% of the guitars I played myself, all the electric guitars.
Nice.
Acoustic guitars. Secondary guitar player played some additional guitar work. His name's Jordan Zadarozny, up in a studio called Skylark, up in Pembroke, Ontario. And then primarily all the stuff that I recorded myself was, my own parts, the guitars, the vocals, the fiddle parts, all that stuff I recorded at home.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite impressive, especially that you did it at home and with all these different people. Like, it sounds like there was about over 10 people included on here. So that's quite interesting. And just finally, like, what is your preparation for shows when you're allowed to play them? And like when you played them in the past, what is like your preparation for each show?
Well, first it's getting the musicians that are available and the desire to do shows with me, rehearsal process, and then book them at the same time. I could be a little flat-footed here if the single works and people immediately want to start booking me. I do have musicians in mind, so. In this day and age, I think with pushing stuff on with somebody like myself who doesn't have a band in play right now, I really don't know. Like, I mean, I'm just going to kind of see how it develops. I do have musicians on the ready, so we'll see. I guess rehearsing is the big thing. I like to be prepared. I don't like to be somebody who gets up there and has awkward moments on stage. I'd like to have everything polished and everybody knowing what's going on. So that's key to me. So preparation is everything, really.
Yeah. So just lots of practice and all that.
Lots of practice, yeah. Even getting into a room and having the sound equipment set up like it would be a show, rather than rehearsing to nobody. But
Yeah.
at least you're getting familiar with what you need to do while you're up there in front of people. Because a lot of times when you do get on stage in front of people, the nerves take over, and you only end up being maybe 70% as good as you are when you're alone. So, when you are prepared, that percentage tends to climb.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely understand. And what would your advice be for anybody who wants to start learning the fiddle or any instrument like that maybe isn't like mainstream or anything? It's not one of the like common instruments people learn. What would be your advice?
Pick what you're interested in. Absolutely. Like, if it's something that you are compelled to learn, absolutely go for it. And if you find it awkward at first, well, that's just normal. Like, I mean, there's no way to learn but to get in there and get dirty, so to speak, and try to just muscle your way through it some days, and some days are better than others. So keep in mind that you are making progress no matter what, and try not to take yourself so seriously. I think wanting to be better than you are quicker than you're capable of can kind of kill people's desires to keep going, and you just got to, I just think that if I could give any advice to anybody that starts, is just to keep going and not take it so seriously.
Yeah. Just kind of mess around, have fun, basically, and then kind of progress as you get. That definitely makes sense.
Focused fun, yeah, for sure. You gotta have fun, but you gotta be focused too,
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you gotta mess around a little bit, but you still gotta learn from it. And I have to thank you for letting me interview you.
Okay.
Make sure to go stream the single when it comes out on, was it Friday?
Friday, September 10th.
Friday, September 10th, and the full.
I want my life back.
Yes, and the full album comes out
October 24th.
October 24th. It is called Kid Who. Of course,
That's
just search Dan Stacey and Dan Stacey Music, and you'll find it. And thank you once again.
Yeah, danstacey.ca as well, my website. So
perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Ewan, thank you very much. All right.
Thanks.